Hello and good evening. It is now 19:05 in London. I'm Luke Addison.
I'm Nikki Scott.
Thank you so much for joining us again for our third episode of Together Talks Series 4. What an amazing talk we had last week with 7 Women founder Stephanie Woolard. She was talking to us about real and lasting change and definitely left us all wanting to visit Nepal.
Absolutely, I'm in there. Yes, Stephanie was incredible. Well, she is an incredible woman and had such a great story to share. As always, if you missed the last episode or any of our previous Together Talks, you can catch up on demand, along with a total of now nearly 30 events from our 4 series so far, which are available on the Rotary Great Britain and Ireland YouTube channel. The whole aim of Together Talks is to ultimately provide a resource library for anyone to use at any time for a virtual or a hybrid meeting to invite others, Rotarians and guests into discussion and inspire action.
Super. Thank you, Nikki. So now for this evening's talk, we want to introduce Emily Steveson, better known as the Beach Guardian and a plastics warrior. Aged 23, Emily is a marine biologist and the co-founder of the award-winning social enterprise Beach Guardian. Emily is also a budding environmental reporter with her weekly Tune In Tuesday video blog and social media pages that reach over 8 million people worldwide, and she regularly features on BBC Spotlight.
Emily has achieved so much already, including a Point of Light Award from the Prime Minister of the UK, as well as a Young Citizen Award from Rotary Great Britain and Ireland, and the Diana Award in 2020, which is the highest accolade a young person can achieve for social action and humanitarian efforts. She'll be sharing some great insights tonight on important environmental issues with her topic entitled Plastics Warrior: Turning the Tide on an Ocean Pollution. So now let's learn a little bit more about Emily through her intro video.
Hi, I'm Emily Stevenson, co-founder of Beach Guardian down in the southwest of England. I'm currently on Trevone Beach in North Cornwall, and I've just done a beach clean and found all of this plastic that's washed in on the tide onto the beach. In 2019, I was delighted to be recognised by the Rotary Young Citizen Award. I love working with Rotary to help support and protect our environment, and every time I do work with Rotary, they're always so encouraging, helping me to grow and achieve my full potential. As an example, with collaborations we've done in the past, we've joined 3 of our local Rotary clubs on a litter pick for World Cleanup Day 2019, where we cleaned the riverbed in Truro, thus stopping all of the plastic from entering the ocean in the first place. It was absolutely phenomenal, and Rotary certainly delivered. We removed kilos and kilos of plastic from the environment. Beach Guardian aims to engage, educate and empower against plastic pollution. An example of this is when I wore my dress made out of Walker's crisp packets to my graduation in 2018. This, along with other campaigns at the time, led to Walker's introducing the very first nationwide crisp packet recycling scheme. The future is incredibly exciting for Beach Guardian, and I cannot wait for all of the future collaborations with Rotary and supporting them in their new area of supporting the environment.
So let's zoom Emily in from Wadebridge, Cornwall, although I wish in some ways we could be zooming ourselves to the beach, Luke, really. Hey, Emily.
Hello, Emily.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Super. Well, thanks for being here. The work that you're doing, Emily, is truly amazing, and we want to give you a huge welcome to Together Talks. We'll move things along and offer you our Together Talks soapbox.
Great, well, thank you very much. And as I've already said, thank you so much for having me. It's such an opportunity to talk about the work that we've been doing at Beach Guardian, but also really raise awareness of environmental issues. And as I said in the video, this is particularly important now with Rotary's new area of focus being the environment this year. So again, thank you very much. So I'd just like to briefly introduce who Beach Guardian are and what we do. I don't really need to after your fantastic introduction. Pretty much everybody knows who I am and what I do now. I've got a lot to live up to, so thank you for that. So Beach Guardian is a social enterprise based in North Cornwall, and it was co-founded by myself and my dad in 2017. And Beach Guardian's aim is to engage, educate and empower against plastic pollution. And that's kind of our tagline, our go-to. But what does that actually mean? Well, the work that we do at Beach Guardian can be divided up into 5 key areas. We have the community work that we do, so going down onto the beach and working with people. You know, people think that conservation is about animals, but for us it's about working with communities and empowering them to take responsibility for their local environment. The next area that we work in is education, so going into schools all around the world, virtually and physically. Here in the UK, we've now been into over 85 different schools, engaging with over 65,000 school children. We work with businesses to help them reduce their reliance on unnecessary plastics, and you heard in the video there with our engagement with PepsiCo, who own Walkers, but we work with many smaller organizations as well, and you know, small businesses to help them really connect with their customers and the environment too. We work, you know, through research. It's very important for us at Beach Guardian to do everything from an evidence-based approach. So I've just started working as a research assistant at the University of Exeter, where I've just completed my master's degree, where I've been researching the role of microplastics in antimicrobial resistance, which is super interesting but super terrifying at the same time. And then finally, collaboratively, we work. That's probably the most important ethos, the most important backbone of Beach Guardian is collaboration, working with as many different organizations as we can, which is what I suppose brings me to you today, in that we have worked with many different Rotary clubs, especially during the pandemic, zooming across the world to different clubs in different corners of the earth. And it has been such a pleasure to meet with so many different Rotarians from so many different backgrounds. But the overarching theme of engaging with Rotary is action. And that is why I'm so excited to be with you today, is to take this empowerment and turn it into action for the planet.
Amazing. Thanks, Emily. So first question, just to get things started really, is how did it all begin for you? Where did your passion of wanting to do something for the environment come from?
I think my passion for the environment just comes from, you know, growing up in Cornwall. I've been very, very lucky to be exposed to, in my opinion, and I am biased, the most beautiful coastline on the entire planet. So having that connection to the environment from such a young age has really led me to where I am now and wanting to protect it. But at the same time, being exposed to this beauty, I've also always been exposed to the plastic. It's something that I've always noticed. It's always been present in all of my childhood memories down on the beach, that nostalgic kind of lovely family time spent on the beach. Plastic has always been in those memories. So it's now, because I've been exposed to it all my life, that's why I want to give my life to tackling it.
Yeah, amazing. And there may be people watching who think that the reason that you're cleaning the beaches and the reason that keeping beaches clean is important is more of a cosmetic thing. It may be so that humans can sunbathe on the beaches, or so that they're clean and tidy to look at, but it's much more important than that. So can you just tell us, why is it so important to keep our beaches clean?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think many people think that beach cleaning is just a cosmetic thing to make a place look nicer. And some people even doubt the environmental benefit of beach cleaning. You know, what difference can one beach clean make? But what we like to focus on is the ripple effect. You know, starting down on the beach with a group of people, potentially vulnerable people. You know, what we do at Beach Guardian is trying to connect with all groups in the community, bringing people together that are maybe having problems with their mental health and well-being, problems with social isolation, problems with rehabilitation and that kind of thing. So we bring together all different kinds of people from all walks of life down on the beach. So we're already tackling many social issues there. Then with the environmental issues of actually tackling plastic pollution, it absolutely cannot be underestimated how much of an issue plastic pollution is. And some people think that oh, it's not on my front doorstep. Well, you should see how much plastic we've collected from the beaches on just a 10-mile stretch of the North Cornwall coastline. We've collected upwards, if not more, than 20 tons of plastic just from a 10-mile stretch just in the last 4 years. And what's washing up on our beaches is just 1% of what's really out there in the ocean. So getting that plastic off the beach, out of the environment, is preventing it from causing devastation on wildlife and human health. So it is so important that we all do our bit, even if it's just a small 2-minute beach clean, because I'm saying it's just a 2-minute beach clean. That makes a huge difference. Collaboratively, when we do that together, it's a global change.
Amazing. Over to you, Nikki.
So Emily, I mean, it's extraordinary to see somebody of your age have such clarity around how they want to spend their entire life. You know, my children at a similar age were like, I have no idea what I want to do yet. Actually, it's not true for my daughter, if I'm honest. So, but I think, you know, your father obviously had enormous influence on you, and with his being a marine biologist, and it's piggybacking off Luke's question, really, that relevance of learning what was going on in the ocean. So can you tell us a little bit about what you learned from your father, and then obviously you went on to study that yourself?
Yeah, I mean, our whole family have always had this connection to Cornwall. My mum was born here, and that's why we kind of moved back when I was younger. And I've just always been taught to appreciate the environment, and I've been so blessed. I know I've been very fortunate and had a very fortunate upbringing, being here in Cornwall and going on holidays that have always been revolved around the ocean. So as soon as I was old enough to start scuba diving, I started scuba diving, and just having those experiences where I was able to appreciate the beauty, really, you know, that's all you need to become a conservationist. You just need that one moment that you think, oh my goodness, you know, the beauty on this planet is just incomparable. How can we not give every ounce of our being to protecting that? And I'm very, very fortunate to have experienced that, because I'm sure that if I hadn't have experienced all of these wonderful things, then maybe I may feel differently about the planet. Although saying it now, I probably wouldn't be, because I'm so set on it. But, you know, I think it's so important that from a young age, people need to be exposed to the environment. They need to connect with nature. I think what's so important is in schools having environmental education from a very young age, because when we learn about something, we can connect to it, and once we've connected to it, we want to protect it. So I think that kind of thing is super important to all young people.
And you obviously have an enormous thirst for learning. Obviously, you went on from marine biology at Exeter to doing a master's in microplastics. You just finished that, and you just mentioned you're even still being a research assistant. So learning is a wonderful thing. What other role models have you had in your life, Emily, that are shaping your thinking and encouraging you along the way?
Yeah, you're so right. I think this is almost going a bit deep and philosophical, but I was talking to my friend the other day about the meaning of life, and we said that the meaning of life is just to never stop learning and becoming aware of more and more things and more experience. It's just to experience and to learn. And to be honest, never until about 2 years ago, I didn't actually see the true value in learning. You know, I did my undergraduate, I did marine biology, and I loved it. But when I finished my undergraduate, I from then on thought, okay, I've done the education side of things, I've done the academia, I'm just going to be a campaigner, I'm just going to be a conservation. I keep saying both these things are amazing. I'm going to be a campaigner, I'm going to be an environmentalist. But then I worked full-time for Beach Guardian for a year, and going into schools and doing beach cleans, and I kind of felt like something was missing and I wasn't quite achieving my full potential. So that was when I decided to do my master's. And, you know, as I said, academia wasn't really a huge passion of mine at the time. But then when I started my master's, I had pretty much had my heart set on doing a project around microplastics and microorganisms. So I spoke with so many academics at the University of Exeter, And somehow I managed to have the fantastic support of an incredible supervisory team with Professor Angus Buckling and Dr. Amy Murray. And both of them are just huge role models to me now. And the amount that they've taught me and shown that I'm actually able to achieve, I never thought that academia would be a community that I could be part of, but actually through their guidance and mentorship, now I want to progress to PhD level, and I just absolutely love research, and that is a totally new passion that I wouldn't have gained without their mentorship. So I think, as somebody said in a webinar I was in the other day, it is so important to get yourself a mentor. That is the kind of best springboard you can have. The best kind of catalyst for your own success is to get yourself a mentor. Well, I was very fortunate to have two, and I'm so grateful for that. So they are two very important role models to me.
Well, how fantastic to hear that, and such a great way you could give them a shout out here today. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Emily, but some people would assume that you'd been reading that since about the age of 5, given how much you've achieved already. But he talks about ever increasing circles of influence. And I personally find that the older I get, I think it should be ever increasing circles of ignorance, because the more we learn, the more we realize we don't know. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So Emily, you were saying earlier, how much plastic you picked up on a small stretch of miles just on your own beach. And we haven't got into yet how much of a problem plastic is on an international level. But do you ever feel like you could be doing plastic picking and beach cleans for a very, very long time, and it's a bit of a feeling of putting a band-aid on a larger wound? I think is the problem more in why the plastic is there in the first place, and what are some of the solutions that you're coming up with to try and tackle it as a wider problem?
Yes, you're exactly right. One quote that we often say is, if you had a leaky sink in your bathroom, you wouldn't spend year after year mopping up the floor to fix the tap. We view the plastic on the beaches as the spill on the floor, and if we don't turn off the plastic tap, we will be cleaning up that spill forever. It will just go on and on and on. So whilst it's lovely that we're doing the community work and doing the beach cleans and that kind of thing, we need to also tackle it from the source and stop it going into the environment in the first place. So we touched on it already briefly with the video and such. We've been working with PepsiCo, which are the second largest food and drink manufacturer in the world. They're also in the top 3 biggest plastic polluting organizations in the world. So a big player in this game that I find myself in. And we've had some fantastic opportunities to work with them, obviously with the crisp packet scheme. I've actually got a crisp packet here I can show you, because I think I can talk about crisps and how I'm obsessed with them, but it's not until you actually see the why behind it that you fully understand my kind of obsession. So actually, I can't take full credit for this crisp packet because I didn't actually find it. One of our fantastic collaborators, Turner Tide Cornwall, found it and gave it to me as a gift, because everybody knows I'm just obsessed. So this is a crisp packet here, a Smith's crisp packet. And the reason that I'm hiding this is because there's a date there. And you'll see there that it says Royal Wedding. Now, this wasn't Harry and Meghan's wedding. This wasn't William and Kate's wedding. This was Charles and Diana's wedding in 1981. So that makes this crisp packet 16 years older than I am. The colour is perfectly preserved, and I'm literally pulling it as hard as I can. And that just perfectly shows the durability of plastic, the longevity of plastic. Every single piece of plastic that gets littered today will still be here when my grandchildren have grandchildren, and when their grandchildren have grandchildren, and it just goes on and on. So because I was finding these vintage crisp packets, that's why I made the Walker's dress, and that's why I wanted to engage with Walker's and PepsiCo, and that's why the nationwide crisp packet recycling scheme was introduced. But since working with them, I've had opportunities to go and speak at their UK nationwide staff sustainability conference. We've done some litter pick events with them, some beach cleans, and looking for other ways that they can reduce their reliance on plastic. So we're trying to kind of tackle it from top down as well as bottom up.
So do you think it's more important to be educating the young people of the future to be not throwing the litter in the first place, or more important to be lobbying those that you've named who are the biggest polluters?
I think because plastic pollution is such a multifaceted issue, we have to make sure we're doing everything the best we can. We have to engage with young people the best we can, and we have to engage with, you know, corporations the best that we can. But in terms of importance, the young people get it. From our experience, you know, I've just finished working on the official youth engagement group for the G7, and through that we engaged with 10,000 young people across the world, particularly across the G7 nations. And I've never been so proud to be a young person, because the consultations that we were having and what we were getting back from our surveys and focus groups was just absolutely incredible. I couldn't even understand the comprehension that young people have of the environment and of the planet. It's like we have this connection to it, and obviously I can't speak for all young people, but from my experience and being in schools, young people get it. The larger organizations, and I think it just comes down to profit and marketing, we've got a bit more of a job to do. So in terms of importance, that's where we really need to focus more energy. But of course, engaging with young people is my greatest passion. So, you know.
Super.
Emily, I can't let that just go by. The fact you just mentioned that, you know, you're at the G7 summit, and, you know, to be selected as the official youth, part of the official youth group is phenomenal. Can you just tell us a little bit more about what does that feel like to you, to actually A, get selected, and B, find yourself on the way, and what's it like when you're really involved?
It's been a total whirlwind, to be honest with you. And I've learned so much. You know, I've never really delved into the policy side of things that much, and that's really another reason why I wanted to do my master's. My master's title was Conservation Science and Policy, so I kind of got a little bit of experience with the policy side of environmental issues and conservation with that. But with the youth engagement group of the G7, I was really thrown in at the deep end. You know, this is the highest level of international decision making, and we are responsible for channeling the voices of all young people across the G7 nations. So it was a massive responsibility, but it was so empowering. And as I say, you know, I learned so much from the experience, but from my peers as well, and from the people we were speaking to. There were environmental issues that I hadn't really even thought of myself. You know, I'm a biological scientist, a biological conservationist, whereas many of the people involved were social scientists and really interested in the social side of climate change. One big policy area that came out of our consultations of importance was climate justice, and how currently people seeking refuge from climate affected countries, you know, following climate disasters, you cannot become a refugee under climate kind of pressures, which is absolutely disgusting, considering that it's because of Western nations that the global south is facing such disastrous you know, extreme weather events and that kind of thing. So this side of the social side of climate change and environmental issues, I've just totally opened my eyes to this new world, and it just means, you know, more work to be done, but it's just been phenomenal. And engaging with ministers, and, you know, our Prime Minister Boris Johnson was at the summit as he filmed an interview, and seeing him highlight, you know, another thing that came out of the our consultations that was currently not even mentioned in the G7, you know, the leaders' discussions, was mental health. And young people highlighted that one of the biggest concerns of health is mental health. And the G7 weren't even talking about that. And he said, you know, actually, mental health is really important. So it's because of young people that these incredibly important issues are being discussed now.
Wow, where do we go from there? That's such an enormous amount to talk about. I mean, I think, I know the social climate justice is huge, and Adi Adapitan, who's one of our Rotary ambassadors, isn't he? He's about to do a big program on that, I think. So I think you've mentioned collaboration an awful lot, Emily, and Rotary, of course, does a lot to collaborate as an organization with many other organizations to impact change and sustainable change. And it always breaks my heart how fragmented some of these efforts, because these issues are so enormous, so many people want to do something, but so often it's such fragmented effort. What are you learning? You mentioned that you work as Beach Guardian a lot around collaboration. What are you really taking away in terms of how you can impact people working more together?
Yeah, I think one of the most tragic things that we noticed when we first started Beach Guardian is this thing that we call the eco-ego, and it's different organizations, people, groups kind of racing to save the world first. But something that we've always championed is that we are stronger together, we are louder together, we are only going to solve all of the systemic issues, not just climate, but the housing crisis, racism, inequalities, all of the problems that we face. We are only going to solve them if we work together. And some people say, how can you possibly work with this one of the top 3 plastic polluting organizations in the world? And I think, well, I'm not going to change something unless I'm part of it. I have to sit down and have those conversations, because if I just do the typical kind of historic or traditional way of campaigning and just base everything I do off fear, build up these walls, glue myself to buildings, go down the kind of extreme route, then I'm not going to have the opportunities to actually sit down and talk to these people and think, well, what can we actually do about it? What are the solutions? And with PepsiCo, we've seen that collaboration is the strongest and best way to go, because when we sat down with them, they said, what are the solutions? Because they don't know. We don't know some of the stuff that they know, and they don't know some of the stuff that we know. It's only with this knowledge sharing that we will solve these issues.
Yeah, brilliant, amazing. And caring for the environment obviously isn't new. It's not a new phenomenon, but over the last couple of years, there certainly has been a real shift in the people's focus towards it. With the school climate marches, the founding of Extinction Rebellion, the real things that we've started to see shift in the narratives around it. What do you think changed in the last few years to have brought it to the forefront of the discussion?
I think most recently, I think the most interesting thing has been with COVID-19. I know it's kind of awful to speak of silver linings in the face of a global tragedy, but COVID and lockdown has been the kind of reset that we've almost needed. People have been able to shift in their minds what their priorities are and who their priorities are. Reconnecting with nature has been one of the most kind of consistent themes through lockdown 1, 2 and 3 here in the UK. People using green spaces to kind of sustain their own mental health and well-being. And I think that has really shown people that, we were kind of just continuing walking blind into a storm and just blissfully unaware of everything that was happening around us. We were just going to work and our 9-to-5 jobs, and we were driving and everything, consuming and greed, and we were just trapped in this ongoing kind of degradation. Whereas now everything literally just got scrapped overnight almost, and we've had to rethink everything. And when we're rebuilding everything, we're now thinking, well, how can we do it better? How can we do it with a minimal effect on the environment? So I think that is going to transition us into a greener way of life. But longer term, in the last sort of 5 or 10 years, I just think we have come such a long way in terms of awareness. For example, it took us 50, 60 years to wake up to plastic pollution. It wasn't until David Attenborough said it on BBC that people suddenly woke up to the devastation we were causing with this material. And we've seen the kind of benefits of our new awareness to this with PPE pollution. In a matter of weeks to months, people were using face masks, they were getting littered, and they were polluting the environment in such vast quantities. But it hasn't taken us 50, 60 years to wake up to it. It took us weeks to months to wake up to it, and we did something to tackle it. So I think that just shows that we really are transitioning into, you know, a better, more responsive society.
Yeah, and talking about COVID-19, how has it impacted the work that you've been doing? Have you still been able to do the beach cleans? Have you still been able to act as you've been going on?
Yeah, just as I've just said, you know, almost overnight we had to kind of scrap all of our traditional ways of doing things. We couldn't do our beach cleans anymore. Or of course we could do our own because we're fortunate to be walking distance to the beach. But we couldn't do our community beach cleans any longer whilst we're in lockdown. But again, there were silver linings and there were positives in redoing everything and finding new ways of doing things. For example, over the lockdowns, I have literally been across the world in Zoom meetings with different Rotary clubs. You know, there was one week where I was in Ghana to the Caribbean to Florida, you know, all across the world, and I didn't leave my desk. And there's no way that I would have been able to engage with those different people without us now being Zoom literate. So there are, of course, benefits to what we've experienced, and we've been able to reach new people. But yeah, it was, I mean, when lockdown first happened, myself and my dad sat down and we kind of thought, you know, we feared for the future of Beach Guardian. How long can this go on for, that we can't actually go into schools or do the beach cleans? But we're very excited now to be relaunching our beach cleans again after the third lockdown. This Sunday is our first beach clean since Christmas.
Wow, amazing.
You know, you say, Emily, about build back better, right? You want to build back better. And the United Nations coined that term. And firstly, I love build forward better. And as an incoming leader here in Rotary Great Britain and Ireland, you know, I really hope that we can capitalize on some of these lessons learned during the COVID pandemic, because it's been such a huge catalyst for change. You know, look at the extended exposure you've had, and the opportunity to meet people that way beyond what you would have done personally. What do you believe in directly associated with the work you want to do? What are some of the changes that you want to make sure that you build on? You talked about the exposure to, you know, having more awareness. Let's bring it down more to a practical level now. What can we start to say to people to don't feel overwhelmed by this, but practically, how can we make sure we embrace the changes and do something specific going forward?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things coming out of COVID was that people really felt isolated and disconnected from each other. But as I've already said, they've never felt more connected to the planet and to nature. And we have to keep up that momentum of being connected to the environment. So I suppose my top tips for taking action to protect the natural world, the first one is the most simple, the most human thing that we all do every single day. It's totally free, it's totally accessible to everybody on the planet. It's just to talk about the environment. The best thing that we can do for the environment is talk about it. Once we're talking about an issue, we can connect to it, we can learn about it. And once we've done those two things, we protect it. Only when we know better can we do better. And we can only know better by talking and learning about these issues. So my best piece of advice that anybody can do is talk about the environment. And people think that to be a volunteer or to be a conservationist, you have to sacrifice a lot. You have to do all sorts of volunteering events and give up hours of your time. You don't. Just what we're doing right now, just talking about the environment, is conservation. We are conserving the planet right now just by talking about it. So my best piece of advice is to talk about the environment. My second, I think one of the biggest issues that I've experienced myself is that we are very, very, very good at diffusing responsibility onto somebody else. For example, the most simple thing I can think of is if you're walking down a street and you see a littered plastic bottle, and I've done this myself, I've literally been walking down the road and I've seen a plastic bottle in the gutter and I've thought, oh, somebody else is going to pick that up. The council are going to come along and pick it up, or someone else will do it. Nobody else is going to pick up that plastic bottle. But if you just break that cycle of diffusing responsibility and take control and use your power to instigate positive change, you might think, what difference is picking up one plastic bottle going to make? But I saw this fantastic saying an analogy the other day where someone was walking along the beach and there was loads of dead starfish washing in, and there millions of starfish, and this person picked up a starfish and threw it back, and someone said, what difference is that going to make, throwing one dead starfish back out of millions? And she said, well, it made a difference to that starfish. So everything we do does make a difference, but we have to stop diffusing responsibility onto other people, which I suppose goes perfectly onto my final best piece of advice, is never doubt the power that you have as an individual to instigate positive change. And something that I feel is a great way to start contributing and to start your journey into conservation is to do a beach clean or a litter pick, because I think this is the best way to kind of reap the rewards of being a conservationist. In that, when I was at school, we were told, to fight climate change, you switch the lights off and you conserve energy. But when you do that, you can't see the polar ice cap that you're saving. You can't see that the ice that you're preventing from melting and the sea levels that you're preventing from rising. But if you do a beach clean, you go to a beach, it's covered in plastic, you do 2, 5, 10 minutes cleaning it, and the plastic is gone and the beach is clean. You instantly see the difference that you've made. And once you've made that difference and you've got that reward and that satisfaction, it's always what's next. So go out there, do a beach clean, pick up that plastic bottle, and know that it does make a huge difference.
Love those. Those are what we usually call our takeaways, and I love the passion with which you deliver them, Emily. There's a groundswell of suggestion about a day called Thank You Day on July 4th. I don't know if you've heard about that yet, but you talk about how much the environment has given us during stressful time and how much it helps our health and our mental health. So I think combining a beach clean with Thank You Day, what a great concept. Are there any specific tips, on how you go about doing that? Just really practical now, yes, well, how many people do you take down? How long do you expect to go? How do you do it? One end to the other? How do you go about doing that?
So the most important thing about doing a beach clean is the safety, because of course of a litter pick as well, it doesn't have to be on a beach, but when you're looking at going outdoors for an extended period of time, make sure you tell somebody where you're going and when you expect to be back. That for me is the most important thing, because you never know what may happen when you're going to different parts of the environment. But when you're doing a beach clean or a litter pick, the most important thing of actually doing the practical beach clean or litter pick is that all of the natural stuff has to stay in the environment. You're just taking away all of the non-natural items, the plastic. The amount of times we've done a beach clean and I've ended up with bags full of sand and feathers and rocks and shells, they can all stay on the beach, but the plastic can come away again. Try and make sure that you've got a litter picker, or at the very least gloves. Make sure you're washing your hands before and after, especially now with the current COVID climate. And if you see anything sharp, potentially suspicious, don't touch it. Any dog poo, I know it's gross to kind of talk about it, but you're in the environment, it's what you find. Just really make sure you're keeping safety at the heart of everything that you're doing.
I love that. And I think there's going to be a lot of Rotarians out there saying, God, that's a great idea. Let's do that. And hopefully they won't just do it on their own. They'll take some friends and join together, because only together can we get these things done. Emily, I've got to ask you, how do you not get overwhelmed with the enormity of the task? How do you stay grounded? And how do you know each day what to do next?
I'm literally just winging it.
Yeah.
My kind of mantra is fake it till I make it. No, I think you're so right in that something that we have seen, and as I've kind of mentioned with the G7 work that I've been doing, mental health is problems with mental health and well-being is particularly prevalent at the moment, at least, you know, with everything that we've all been through over the last year or so. And something that we've noticed in schools is this thing called eco-anxiety, this fear of inheriting a damaged planet and not knowing if there's anything that we can do to change that. But what I would rather focus on, and there's a quote from the film The Hunger Games, President Snow, who's like the baddie of the films, he says, "The one thing more powerful than fear is hope." I could literally tell you a million things that would make you fear for the future of the planet. I have seen some terrifying things down on the beach and through everything that I've done, but I've seen 10 times more things that make me feel hopeful. And that is all I need. Just one or two, or, you know, as many things as possible, but even just one thing a day to make me feel hopeful is what keeps me going. Seeing young people taking responsibility for the planet, seeing you today makes me feel hopeful. Talking about these issues makes me feel hopeful. As I'm driving to work and I see a litter picker or a young person looking at nature, that makes me feel hopeful. But you have to acknowledge all of these things, because else it does just pile on, or the negativity piles on. So you have to make sure that you're acknowledging all of the hopeful things.
Yeah, amazing. So Emily, we're running out of time. I'm afraid it's the final question. So we'd just love to know from you, what does the future for you and the future of Beach Guardian look like?
I wish I knew the perfect kind of answer to this. And Nikki, at the beginning, you said how, you know, I've kind of got my future all laid out, and I know, you know, what I want to do, which is true. I know that I'm always going to give all of my time and everything and every ounce of my being to preserving the planet. But in terms of Beach Guardian and what we're going to achieve, every week to me is a surprise, and every week I think I never thought we could achieve that, but we just keep going from strength to strength, and it's just because of the support of the community. So whatever's possible in the future just comes down to the people we engage with. So honestly, I have no idea. Somebody out there will know, but we have some big plans, and it's going to be really exciting.
Super amazing. So we're unfortunately out of time, but thank you so much, Emily. You gave us our 3 key takeaways earlier on, so thank you for those, and I hope that those who are listening will act upon those. So thanks again for a brilliant talk. We're really grateful for you for coming here and speaking to us. You're such an incredible advocate for such an important topic. As I said earlier, over the last few years, we've seen climate and environmental issues coming to the forefront of our discussions on mainstream media, and serious shifts in organizational focuses, such as you mentioned earlier, Rotary International adding supporting the environment as its 7th key focus area. And in my opinion, it's all largely due to the efforts and power of organizations such as Extinction Rebellion, and of course, inspiring young people such as Greta Thunberg, Shutes Kat Martinez, and you. So thank you for all you've done and continue to do. And we hope we can work very closely with you in the future.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much again.
Thanks, Emily. That was an absolute delight.
Thank you.
Wow, Emily really did show her passion for the planet. I'm really quite moved, actually. That was just such an inspiring conversation. What an extraordinary person. I'm going to watch her career with interest. And I hope that everyone listening this evening will go on and learn more about Beach Guardian and the work that Emily's doing. And you know, something tells me it won't stay contained in just those particular boundaries.
Super. Thanks, Nikki. So next time on Together Talks, we have another brilliant talk for you coming up. Nikki, would you like to tell us all about it?
Absolutely. Our next guest is Professor Erinma Bell, MBE. She's a peace activist recognised for her work tackling gun crime in Moss Side and Longsight, Manchester. After witnessing a friend being shot in front of her and her husband, Raymond, they set up Charisma, a community alliance for renewal inner South Manchester area, to give young people positive alternatives to street and gun crime. Erinma, a mother of 8, works as part of an inspirational network of community leaders and volunteers active across South Manchester, working towards a socially inclusive community. And it will be an incredible talk. This woman is an extraordinary bundle of energy. I've seen her talk before. You won't want to miss this one.
Amazing. Thank you, Nikki. So now let us end by thanking you, our audience, for being with us tonight and asking us such great questions. We'd love to remind you that tonight's broadcast, along with all of series 1 to 4, are now available on demand on the Rotary in Great Britain and Ireland YouTube page, where we'd like to invite you to like, subscribe, and share.
Until then, it's good night from me.
And a very good night from me.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.